Carolyn, Julie, I am so happy that you found the time in your very busy schedule to join us on top of her game. So I guess I have to ask, in this time that has been so challenging for so many, it's also been very joyful for you and your family as you welcomed Tessa to the family. What's it like with a toddler and a 4-month-old at your house?
We're alive. It's been great. It's the first 2 months were challenging. Tessa just turned 4, and we definitely had the true terrible twos in our lovely, awesome Liv, who's a strong character, and we love every bit of her. But we were working through that. So at that same time, we had Tessa, so it was a little bit of everything at once. But what's been really fun to see is just how they've grown together. How you can work through the frustrations of a toddler, and now Liv is a lot more settled, and she now gives great big loving bear hugs slash headlocks to her sister. So it's been a really special time for our family as well.
Carolyn, you talked when I saw you on Rogers Hometown Hockey earlier this year. You said motherhood, parenthood is the only thing better than hockey, pretty much. You realize that there's something greater than hockey. How would you say, for the both of you, your perspectives have changed through becoming parents?
I think it just changes your priorities altogether. For so many years, we've been so focused, so engaged in our sport and in growing our sport and in developing ourselves into better athletes, better leaders, better hockey players. And then now it's like suddenly you live for someone else's health and happiness. And this little person is fully dependent on you, and it's just so much love, so much joy, and being able to go to experience it with Julie, my best friend. It's been the best thing ever, and it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. It is harder than making it to the Olympics and competing to the Olympics, but it is the most rewarding. And I feel so fortunate to have had so many years on the national team where I loved every day of being an athlete, and now I'm truly enjoying being a mother.
So much is made of the Canada USA rivalry, but I'm wondering, I mean, your love and care for one another is so apparent. So in those really tough moments, the wins, the losses, Sochi maybe in particular, Julie, I know was very, very hard for you. How do you navigate that as a loving couple?
Yeah, I think there's the two sides. I think the immediate side is when you're in competition, the end result is one of us is really happy and one of us is really disappointed. So she is one of them. That it took a while to be able to get over that moment and everything that could have been on our side. And that's just the reality. Is we dedicate ourselves to be the best in the world, and we fell short as a U.S. team. And on the flip side, Carolyn's team, they were able to win gold and earn that right. So there is that challenge, because we love each other. So whether we win a world championship or they win, we also celebrate with our teammates. But after the game, we also feel for our partner who we love, because we know the time and effort we both put into being the best that we can be. With that said, I think what's also really special in a relationship is that we also really know what each one is going through. Right? I understand how hard Carolyn works. I understand the commitment she makes and what gets her going, why she's so passionate and why she's such a great leader and teammate, and what we're striving for. And she knows the exact same thing. And yes, we're going through for the same end result, but when we get there, and once we kind of give each other our time to process maybe the post game and the follow up, and we might still need to support each other afterwards, it's pretty special to know that we can go through the process in some ways together, because we're both going through the same kind of struggle and stress and excitement of trying to make an Olympic Games.
Both of you have spoken many times about mentorship and being a role model and what that means to you. And obviously that kind of care and compassion plays into that. Carolyn, was there a time in your life where you realized the importance of having a role model and being one?
Yeah, I think, they often encourage Olympians to get involved in our sport, to encourage the next generation. And I think it really struck with me at the beginning, because often I thought about my own story and the struggles of just being able to play the game at a whole different era. When I asked my dad, it took me 2 years to convince them. And, often I compare myself to women my age, and I've met so many of them throughout my career that have told me I would have loved to play, I wasn't allowed. And just feeling how lucky I was to finally be able to play the game I knew I loved really pushed me to want to create more opportunities for young girls too. When I saw the numbers declining in Quebec, I created my tournament because I realized that this is where we need to start from 5 to 12 years old. This is when we need to make them fall in love with the game and keep them in the game, because a lot of young girls quit sport between 10 and 13. So it's a very, very difficult age. And, it's hard to become something you don't see. So having role models, it's so important. We cannot, unfortunately, count on the media to showcase women sports. We're there very, very few times. So we have to take it upon ourselves to use social media to promote our own leagues, to run our own programs where girls can come, meet us, work with us, learn from us. And even for Julie and I, it's a personal mission that our college players right now become coaches themselves, and working so hard in hockey so that there are more opportunities for women or men that are great to coach women to have full-time jobs in hockey, because so many men have that privilege in men's hockey around the world, but there are so very few jobs in women's hockey.
Julie, I want to talk about a moment that was pivotal in your life. I think it was just after 2002 when you were working at a Cami Granado camp, and a mother came up to you and said, "My daughter is so excited because she finally sees somebody that looks like her." What did you realize that day?
uh, the impact that we can have from just doing what we love, and the visibility of being able to be an elite athlete. And this was in a smaller scale in a local rink in Chicago suburb where Cammie's from. That we got a chance to just work with young girls and young coaches that wanted an opportunity to grow. And at the time, I was only 19 years old, and I didn't even know how to coach yet, right? So I was figuring it out, but I loved being a part of it. And when that mom pulled me aside and said that, and just said, "There's someone else that looks like me," it really hit home. And I think nowadays what's going on, and what we're trying to break down in our diversity and inclusion, and really making hockey and our society more inclusive, more diverse, and accepting and open to everyone. This is now 18 years later, and we're still having this reality that if we can see someone that's like us, then maybe there's that chance that I can do it too. And whether that's a female playing hockey, a female broadcaster, an Asian American doing it, whatever it might be, that's what's really important. And I think we have to be at the forefront of pushing that, so that we can open everyone's eyes to the possibility of what they want to become, and that we don't have to have these closed mentalities of this is only for this race, this gender. No, we want people to be able to pursue dreams and have that opportunity to do that.
Well, Julie, you're going to be able to take that into the NHL's Player Inclusion Committee, which you were just named as being a part of. So has that work started for you? And I guess what is the ultimate goal?
Yeah, no, so we haven't had an official meeting just yet. I think that's coming up very soon, especially with the playoffs still underway. And but I had a great conversation with Kim Davis, that's really spearheading a lot of the diversity and inclusion within the NHL, and everyone's really excited about it. We know that it's time; it's beyond time, and we have to put into our words into action right now. And so I think everyone that's a part of it's really excited, and we're looking forward to having the conversation. That's the number one thing. And then finding actionable items that are going to be able to be put into place, not only at the highest NHL levels, but how do we then go into our fan base? How do we then go into the grassroots players level? So this is something that touches all levels of hockey, that we hope to be able to figure out. How do we create a more inclusive environment where everyone is welcome, where the racial slurs that are still being thrown out there, and the treatment of people because of who they are in a negative way is still a reality. And so we want to break that down. And the number one thing is having the conversations, figuring out how can we make the most effective change, and then seeing how can we implement that change. So we're a long ways from that, but I think creating these committees is the first step to starting that process to get to where we want to be.
The PWHPA came out with their sort of diversity and inclusion initiative and document. I'm wondering what both of you see as the role of the women in the game, maybe specifically, because it feels to me like um, I feel like the women have a more inclusive environment already. Would I be wrong in saying that? I know nothing is perfect. But it just seems that it is already more open. Do you think that the women in the game can really help move this forward, Carolyn?
I think so. I think that for us, when we were athletes, we carefully chose to not come out as a couple because we wanted media to speak about our game, to tell our athletic achievements, to focus on our teams, and when it finally did, we didn't realize the impact that today it could still have on young girls, on young boys that reached out to us and told us, you're an inspiration, you have no idea how much this helped me, and all of it. And now just seeing recently Yannick Duplessis come out, that is huge for men's hockey, because today in the female game, I see young girls that are in their teenagers years, they feel comfortable coming out. They feel comfortable telling their parents, telling their friends. And for the other girls and the other boys, there's no problem about being gay. But on the men's side, on the boys' side of hockey, it's still, very close-minded. And I think what Yannick Duplessis did is extremely courageous. And I'm sure it's going to help many, many young boys and men that are in the same situation and that have chosen to remain silent. So yes, I think we as women can help because we do already have, in my opinion, a more inclusive environment. But I think so many things still need to happen in both games as far as racial discrimination. It's still very present, and I think we need to be aware of it and make changes.
I read that Yannick chose to come out with his story publicly because he heard Brock McGillis talking with Ron MacLean on In Conversation. So it just highlights how important it is to have these conversations on platforms where people can hear it. So I want to talk about the women's game in general. Everything is stalled. We know that. We know the PWHPA has plans afoot, but nothing can really be enacted at the moment. You both work with young people, young women. What is the future? What does the future look like?
What's incredible is just the pool of girls and women's hockey players that we have now and the strength of that pool. When we were in university, we were 2002. And at that time, you really had, we were playing the NCAA at the time, we had the top 4 teams. And then that's all they had was a frozen 4. There wasn't even a top 8. And there was a pretty big drop off after that. And now you just see how competitive the hockey is in the NCAA. And then now here in U Sport, the same thing, the growth that we've had and the competitiveness of our league and the quality of the players, the dedication and the increased resources. Are we still trying to increase resources? Absolutely. I think that's a goal of every single program everywhere we are. But it's been really fun to work at Concordia and to see the growth of our players and how dedicated they are to their off-ice training and their on-ice training, their preparation as student athletes. And then we'll oftentimes go down to the States and play teams down there and how competitive we are. We'll win a bunch of the games. Sometimes they'll win, but it's no longer maybe the gaps that we've seen in the past. And I think that bodes really well for where women's hockey is on the elite level, because now you've got 2 incredible leagues between the U Sport and NCAA that give elite hockey to the university age players. And then on top of that, at the younger levels, there's so much development that's happening for even my niece when she was 8 and 9 years old to continue to develop and love hockey, as Carolyn has said, is such an important part. When we build a base of players that love hockey, they want to get better, they have good coaching and resources, they're just going to get better and push the game, which then eventually leads to the national team, the PWHPA, the NWHL, all those great resources to then be able to strive for.
But we're still fighting for a viable league, right? I mean, that's the end game. That's the end goal. Carolyn, do you have thoughts? I mean, I know that sometimes there's things you can't say publicly. There are kind of behind the scenes storylines, but I mean, do you have any thoughts to add about maybe the future of a viable paying women's league?
My model has always been WNBA, and for me, that's the one way of doing it. The one way that would ensure that we have the best players from around the world, because I personally hope that the next league is not just American and Canadians. If we want to continue to grow the game, to have better women's hockey at the Olympics, well, we need to make the Russians, the Swedes, the Finns better, and we need to all play together. And, right now, the way our leagues have been made is often we've had, 1/3 to half of the players on the team that are training for the national team, and the other half was working full time. And it's nothing against them, but they're playing for the love of the game, for passion, and they're fitting in training where they can. Imagine if all these women could just play hockey and train for hockey, how even better women's hockey could be. And I mentioned it a bit earlier, there's so many men in so many leagues around the world that play hockey professionally. Right now, no women is paid to play hockey. So to me, it makes sense for the NHL to invest in us, because then you grow the fan base. Young girls are going to love women's hockey. They're going to love NHL hockey just as much. They're going to go and watch both games. To me, our love for sport is not limited. If I follow Les Canadiens de Montréal, I'm going to follow Le Canadien de Montréal just as much. They've always been my team. So it just makes sense. And, I know it's an investment. I know it's going to take years, but I think we will get to it knowing that millions of people watch the Olympic Games and are interested in it.
And our final question, we leave all our guests with this. Julie, I'll start with you. What is your best advice for a young Julie Chu?
I guess my best advice is to not be afraid to take a chance and just absolutely enjoy everything you're doing. I found that there's a ton of talented people in the world. There's a ton of talented people that we experience in our daily lives. But you can tell the ones that are passionate, the ones that when they walk in and they're doing whatever their profession, their talent brings them to do, that they light up all the people around them too. And that's the type of person you want to be. And that's the type of drive you want to have, that your passion is exuding from you so that those around you want to come along with you. And I think if you do that, one, you enjoy what you're doing so much and you have purpose, but you hopefully give purpose and joy to those around us and you as well.
That's tough to follow. I feel very fortunate to have fallen in love with a team sport, and I think that the best part of it is being surrounded with people that have the same goals, that have the same vision, and as I mentioned earlier, is just making allies with those people that have those same dreams. And even if sometimes it seemed like it's impossible, I think that's never the case. And when you find one or two or three teammates that are going to help you make you better on the ice, off the ice, with off-ice training, in school, that are going to challenge you, and it's going to be an healthy and a positive relationship, everyone is going to thrive and develop and especially be happy, because that's truly what it is about. When something makes you happy, that's when you can find purpose, you can feel like you're accomplishing something. So for me, that would be the one thing, is choosing your friends wisely and finding people that are going to support you and challenge you.
Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this, especially given the chaos probably that's in your household right now. So love to Tessa, love to Liv, and love to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And good luck to you as well. This is incredible.
Thank you, Tara.